Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Week 7 edition of Analytics with Arjun, coming off a pretty disappointing loss against the Cowboys, one where the Chargers probably, should have won that one if Justin Herbert were able to hit some of those throws. But nonetheless, we keep moving, push forward onto a pretty big week against the Kansas City Chiefs. Either the Chargers can get back to 500 or they slip to 2-4, and the road to the playoffs becomes even harder. Now, I don't want to discuss too much from the Cowboys game. I think everyone kind of understands why the Chargers lost. I think the biggest reason is Justin Herbert. This was probably the worst game he's had since the Seahawks game, and this is the first time I think I felt that he was fully the reason the Chargers lost that game. To his credit, the offensive line wasn't great. He was pressured on around 48% of his dropbacks. He also had no run game. Austin Eckler averaged 1.9 yards per carry. And remember, there were people on Twitter who were saying they should extend Austin Eckler for $7 million a year. Well, I was telling people he's a great receiving back, but he's hitting that age where he's going to decline most likely, and he might not be as good of a runner anymore. Just saying. And to Herbert's credit, Cowboys are top five defense. It's so easy to see why Michael Parsons is the defensive player of the year favorite. The offensive line just got overwhelmed, and defensively, obviously, they did well. They did better than their season average, but three or four key third and long conversions in that fourth quarter, you're just never going to win that way. One thing I wanted to talk about. So Alex, he put this tweet out or a quote out from Staley's presser saying the Chargers are one of the top third down defenses in the league. Really, the stats don't back that up. I think what Staley was implying was the Chargers are really good at getting to the passer, which they are. They have the third best pressure rate on third downs this year. But you can see since 2021, I look specifically at third and long situations because I think that's what everyone gets pissed off about, including me. Since 2021, they have the sixth worst EPA per play allowed and the eighth worst success rate allowed on third and long situations. In 2023, they have the 11th worst EPA per play allowed and the sixth worst success rate allowed in third and long situations. Now, they get closer to league average in both since 2021 and 2023. When you look at all third down situations, and I think that's what Staley was referencing. But also I did want to point out that there's been screenshots going around teamrankings.com has the Chargers as having like a 33% third down conversion rate allowed. The team rankings online, I don't think is factoring in penalties. And Daniel Popper wrote a tremendous article, as he normally does, about this. The Chargers have some of the most third down penalties in the league, and I don't think teamrankings.com takes that into account. So just wanted to, touch on that because, yeah, the Chargers third down defense isn't good. And I didn't really understand that quote by Staley, but looking at their pressure rates on third downs, I think I get what he was referencing. So now let's go on to the Chiefs. As usual, we're using my scouting tool. You can go to at ArjunMenon100, which is my Twitter. It is the pinned tweet. You can look through the glossary to see what everything means, read about it. But we are going to be scouting the Kansas City Chiefs. This is not fun because the Kansas City Chiefs are notable for being one of the hardest teams to scout. They are so diverse, so multiple. Andy does a tremendous job of self-scouting. And when I was going through this before recording, I wasn't really finding a lot of tendencies to pick up on. But as you can see, their offense is great as normal. They're fourth in EPA, eighth in success rate, fourth in EPA per pass. They're about league average in terms of running the ball. 12th best explosive rate, which is, maybe a little bit lower than years past when they had Tyreek, but they are still finding manufacturing ways to generate explosive plays. As you can see, no big run past tell by down. But the one big tendency I think I was able to find is they do love to run the ball on 2nd and 1 and 3rd and 1 and 2nd and 2. So on 2nd and 1 and 2, they've run 12 plays in neutral game scripts outside of the red zone, non 2-minute. They've passed on 11 of those 12 plays. So, regardless of formation, on 2nd and 1 and 2, the Chargers should be gearing up to stop the run because that is what the Chiefs like to do. Now, on 3rd and 1, again, similar situation. They've run 6 plays and they've run the ball on 5 of those 6 plays. But on 3rd and 2, they actually flip it. On 3rd and 2, they've ran 7 plays. They've passed on 6 of them. 6 of them. So again, it's just a tiny flip. But there are some key tendencies I think we can pick up from the Chiefs. Again, 2nd and 1 and 2, most likely going to be a run. Third and one, most likely going to be a run. Third and two, it's most likely going to be a pass. And then otherwise, they're usually just passing the ball like they normally like to do. In terms of formations, they run 74% of their plays out of shotgun. That's where, they aren't the most efficient, but again, they have the highest success rate of any formation out of shotgun. They love passing the ball out of shotgun, as you can see here. Their second most used formation is going under center. They have the sixth best EPA, but the 26th best success rate, which is interesting. I think, they may just use under center for some key high leverage situations. Again, this table is factoring out red zone, so it's not skewed by some of their short touchdowns. So this is definitely interesting. They, are pretty good passing the ball. They just aren't as successful on a play for play basis doing so. As you can see, no big tendencies here. We're not really going to look at shotgun from third down because, everyone passes from shotgun. Again, similar thing, second and one. If they're under center, they pass the ball or they run the ball 100% of the time. And from second and medium/long, if they go from shotgun, they've passed the ball about 96% of the time on 23 plays alone. And third and two, they use shotgun exclusively. And again, that's where they've passed the ball 6 out of 7 times. In terms of their personnel usage and efficiency, you can see they love to run 11 personnel. They've used that 63% of the time, which I think is a little bit higher than where it was last year, where they used 13 personnel and 12 personnel a little bit more. They aren't that good out of 11 personnel this year. You can see they ranked 17th in EPA per play. They ranked 18th in success rate. Whereas in 12 personnel, they rank 5th in EPA per play. They rank 6th in EPA per pass. Like, this is a way better team out of 12 personnel, which is tricky because, the Chargers linebackers haven't been that good this year. And if the Chargers trying to counter the Chiefs 12 or 13 personnel with base, I think, Patrick Mahomes will eat that up for dinner just because of how good he is throwing the ball. But yeah, they haven't been good out of 11. And part of that is just because they don't have good receivers this year. They're really looking at the trio of Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, Valdez-Scantling, and then trying to mix in Kadarius Toney and Justin Watson. Like, it's not a very compelling group. Now, at the time I'm recording, they just traded for Mecole Hardman. So who knows? Maybe he'll make a splash impact on his first game back versus the Chargers. But yeah, they are not a very good 11 personnel team this year. Moving on, we can see how they've done against defenders in the box. And this is again, like I said in my last video, like talking about what the Chargers should do, some recommendations. Like, you can see out of, when teams only put 6 defenders in the box, the Chiefs are kind of a below average offense. They rank 19th in EPA per play, 17th in success rate, 18th in both EPA per pass and EPA per rush. So, like, they are averaging a negative. They're losing points every time the defense lines up 6 defenders in the box. Now, when teams add that 7th guy in the box and go to a heavy box, with 7 defenders, which has happened on about 26.5% of their plays, they're one of the league's best offenses. So when defenses put 7 men in the box, they've passed about 53% of the time. They have a 0.23 EPA per play, which ranks 4th. They have the 5th best success rate at 50% and the 3rd best EPA per pass. Which ranks 3rd, 0.56 EPA per pass to be precise. So you can see, I think the Chargers should be playing a lot of lighter boxes, forcing the Chiefs to run the ball, because as you can see up here, they are kind of a league average team at running, whereas they are, way, way, way better at passing despite having some subpar receivers. They also struggle versus nickel. And again, this kind of goes hand in hand, but if teams are running 6 men in the box and also running nickel, that is where you see the Chiefs kind of struggle. They're below average offense in terms of EPA and success rate. When teams go base, they shred, 5th best EPA, 5th best success rate. When teams go dime, which is mainly only third downs, you can see they haven't run the ball. The Chiefs haven't run the ball once versus dime. They're also very, very good. So I would say it's probably best for the Chargers to stay in nickel for the majority of this game. In terms of how the Chiefs have performed against, certain number of pass rushers, they're kind of, as we expect, they're top 10 offense against the blitz. This is Andy Reid's specialty. You can't really blitz Mahomes, can't really blitz Andy Reid. They just have so many man beaters schemed up. They have been like okay against 4 pass rushers. They're basically average in terms of EPA per play. They are slightly above average, ranked 12th in success rate, average in terms of explosive play rate. So again, like, Chargers have done well, I think, getting home with 4 rushers. And I don't see the need to really blitz Mahomes all that much unless you're sending one of your designer blitz packages on 3rd and long. The Chiefs, again, as I've said, have kind of struggled to run the ball. The only gap where they have a higher success rate than the league average is between the tackle and guard gap on the right side. So that's between Trey Smith and Jawan Taylor. But again, it's a very small sample size. They only have 5 rushes in that gap. Every other gap, they have a lower success rate than the league average. The same kind of holds true for EPA per rush, which is, again, skewed by outliers in a very, very, very small sample. In terms of their pass game tendencies, they like to throw the ball the most left and short, right and short, and then, also in that middle or in that right intermediate range. Patrick Mahomes does do very well throwing the ball right between 1 to 20 yards. You can see they rank basically top 7 in almost every statistical category. But otherwise, yeah, like this is they also have a really, really good screen game. You can see like when they throw left and behind the line of scrimmage, only 20 passes, but top 3 in both EPA and success rate and CPOE. In terms of player personnel tendencies, there aren't too many, surprising things. You can see Valdez-Scantling is kind of their pseudo wide receiver 1. Sky Moore is kind of that wide receiver 2. When the Chiefs go 13 personnel, MVS is the guy who stays in at receiver. When the Chiefs go 12, go 12, Noah Gray is usually the guy that plays the most snaps. Again, Travis Kelce missed 1 game, so this number per game might be actually closer, but Gray still holds the throne in terms of playing more snaps in 12 personnel than Travis Kelce. In terms of fourth down decision making, the Chiefs are kind of right around league average. They correctly, or I would say like, with a very vague quotes, correctly go for it on fourth down. Again, this is based on the public fourth down model. They go for it when they should about 50% of the time through 6 games. You can see the Chargers, just to update that, they are pretty high. They're ranked 4th in terms of when they should go for it on fourth down, when Ben Baldwin's model tells them to. Now moving on to the defense, look, the Chiefs defense is really good this year. Like they are really good, especially at stopping the pass. And this is something that we haven't been used to, but this is a very young team, a lot of young players, especially in that secondary. I think L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie are maybe the second best cornerback duo in the league behind Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. As you can see, just a lot of green. You're going to see this throughout every table on the defensive side. It's a lot of green for the Chiefs defense. They use their 4-2-5 personnel the most often. Their second most used personnel is 4-3-4. They have 4 very good linebackers in Willie Gay, Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal, Drew Tranquil. I think Bolton is hurt. Forgive me if I'm mistaken there, but there's no real weakness in this Chiefs defense, whether in the personnel they use. You can see here they love to use this 4-1-6 package on both third and fourth down. And when we look at their DB usage and efficiency, where they really struggle, which is interesting, is they don't do very well stopping the run in base. You can see they have the 27th best EPA per rush allowed when they go into base this year. They do a better job stopping the run out of nickel. And then you look at like their DB usage by down. Again, they love to go dime on third down, which again is kind of similar to Minnesota's defense that we looked at earlier in the season. On first and second down, they love to go into their on first down, they like to play nickel and base. On second down, it's mostly nickel. And then on third down, it's mostly dime. So you're going to see that 6 DB come on. I believe that'll be like Brian Cook, who's like their third safety, or they'll bring in an extra corner. But it is pretty interesting to see how Spags likes to bring on that extra DB and likes to send that slot blitz or that linebacker blitz pretty often. In terms of matching personnel groupings, again, they like to match 11 with nickel. They like to match 12 with base. So again, the Chargers don't use a ton of 12 personnel. I think they use it, they use it much less than 11 personnel. But when they do go 12, you're going to see that third linebacker come on. And, you want to get teams in base because it's easier to throw on them. But again, the Chargers tight ends aren't very good at receiving or catching the ball outside of Gerald Everett. So I'm not really sure how much is going to help the Chargers to go into 12. But just know if they do, the Chiefs are going to counter with base personnel. In terms of the number of pass rushers, you can see the Chiefs like to send 5 or more pass rushers 45% of the time. They are the best team on defense at blitzing. They rank first in EPA per play. They rank third in success rate allowed. They rank second in explosive play rate allowed. This is a very, very good defense when they send 5 or more rushers. When they don't send 5 or more rushers, that's when you can see They do struggle a little bit. They rank 15th in EPA per play allowed when rushing for, 13th in success rate. They are, kind of slightly above league average, but when they do blitz, it hits. It hits hard. Yeah, they mainly rush four though. Like I guess their highest percentage of plays where they rush five or more would be third down, where they rush five or more about 52.38% of the time. So that's the down. Obviously, you're going to see Spags try to mix it up and get Justin Herbert flummoxed. Yeah, you can see they just rank top three in terms of blitz rate on every single down. They'll blitz out of any number of DB packages. So don't think that, oh, if they go dime, they're not going to blitz. Like, they are going to blitz in any type of situations. And I guess the one area where they might struggle to stopping the pass, like, is in this right short area where they're kind of below league average. But you can see again, it's just a lot of green on this table for the Chiefs. They're very, very good at stopping the pass over the middle and intermediate sections. It's only 8 passes, but still, these are some very, very elite numbers from this Chiefs coverage unit. In terms of run game tendencies, allowed, I guess you could say the Chiefs have struggled to stop the run in between the center and guard gap, or the guard and tackle gap. So you can see the Chiefs bar success rate allowed is higher than the league average in both those locations. That's going to be Will Clapp and Zion Johnson, or Will Clapp and Sawyer and Trey Pipkin. So those guys need to have a big game. I think this honestly is where Chris Jones lines up the most often, or where his backup will be. So the Chiefs, again, they aren't a terror. Like, their EPA per rush is really bad. And I think that part of that is just the explosive plays they allow, as you can see here with some of these EPA bars. But I think for the most part, they are down a pretty solid run defense. So I think, like, the Chargers, they had a lot of, I recommended that they should have tried to see if the run game was going to work against the Cowboys, which they did. To their credit, they ran it a little bit early. They ran it early in the game and realized it wasn't working and went to a pass heavy approach, which I am fully in support with. I think they should try that again this game, especially given, that the pass game didn't look that great against the Cowboys. And if you're not able to run on the Chiefs, just resort to passing Justin Herbert. You can throw with him 30, 40, 50 times a game and you'll be successful. So try to establish the run, or not establish the run. Try to run the ball, see how efficient it is, see if you can kind of hit the Chiefs in the interior, which is where they've struggled this year. And if that doesn't work, again, you can resort to that pass-heavy approach. Last couple of things I wanted to talk about. You can see this is a graph of my friend at Judah Fortgang at Throw the Damn Ball on Twitter. This is just looking at quarterback efficiency in man, which is the x-axis, and zone, which is the y-axis. You can see Patrick Mahomes, he's a top 4 quarterback in terms of efficiency versus man coverage, but he's kind of closer to league average when it comes to zone coverage. So I would hope the Chargers don't go too man heavy in this game, just because the Chargers corners have really struggled. The safeties have struggled. Everyone's really struggled in that secondary. I think just playing zone, which is where Mahomes has kind of struggled for most of the season, I think that will be better off for the Chargers than playing man. As you can see, Mahomes has just been much more efficient out of man coverage, facing man coverage and zone coverage. And then last thing, I'm sure this comes as no surprise to anyone, but Patrick Mahomes is just the greatest scrambler in the world, maybe ever. You can see right here in this graphic I pulled up. I know it's not as pretty, but it was just my code. He scrambled 21 times this year for 192 scramble yards, which is number 1 in the league. He's averaging 0.845 EPA per scramble, which means every time he scrambled, he's added about 0.8 points to the Chiefs, which is insane. And he has a 76.2% success rate on scrambles. So when you talk about, like, you have to get off the field, you have to contain Patrick Mahomes, like, if he breaks the pocket, it's most likely to be a first down. That's just the nature of the game. That's just the nature of Patrick Mahomes. Rush lanes and rush, I guess, pass rush integrity, or whatever they call it, it's going to be very important. Like, they need to be in their lanes. They can't break contain. Everything has to be on point. Otherwise, Mahomes will make you pay. All right. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Again, not a whole lot on the Chiefs that we can really uncover. Again, Andy Reid, this is why he's one of the best. He's just super hard to game plan for. I guess, again, the big takeaways from this one: on 2nd and 1 and 2, it's most likely going to be a run. 3rd and 1 is going to be a run. 3rd and 2 is going to be a pass. The Chiefs have struggled to stop the run more than the pass. So see if that run game is working early. You could try to lean on it, especially if you don't trust the pass game as much without Quentin Johnston's emergence. And then also beware of the blitz. Spags is going to send pressure or send blitzes at a pretty high rate. They are very successful at doing so. So just be wary of all of that. And again, Mahomes' efficiency versus zone coverage is much lower than it is versus man. So those are, my recommendations, my biggest takeaways from this episode. Hope everyone enjoyed. Hopefully the Chargers go into Kansas City and get a dub. Otherwise, again, they'll drop into 2-4 and their road to the playoffs just becomes so much harder. But thanks everyone for listening to this video. I'll be back next week. And as always, Bolts up.